welcome to my channel Commerce Specialist, where you'll find videos covering syllabus areas of various academic qualifications and professional certifications. Ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is very important. It's related to decision-making area, in particular operate or shut down decisions. So what's operate or shut down decisions? Sometimes what happens, organizations are in a decision-making mode. They are thinking whether to continue operating a particular department, division or branch, or to shut it down. So when we are talking about operate or shut down decisions, there are few things we need to know. Only then we'll be able to make an informed decision. There are certain things we need to be very careful about because a bad decision would affect a company adversely. So if we are aware of the important aspects, the main concepts of operate or shut down decision, or in other words, I will say the main criteria. So when a company is faced with operate or shut down decisions, there are certain things you need to be very careful about, because your aim is to maximize shareholders' wealth, to maximize profit for the owner, the risk takers. So the main thing we need to know is what is the criteria, or what are the criteria, if more than one, to consider before taking an operate or shut down decision. So what I have done is I've given some numbers here. Let's say this is one big business which has three departments, A, B and C. All these three departments are operating for a long time. Let's say this business has been operating for the last 10 years. So if you look at department A, we have sales for department A 50,000. The relevant variable cost for department A is 30,000, which includes material, labor and overheads. And variable costs by definition are those costs which vary, which changes as your activity level of production changes. So variable costs are 30. When you subtract, you get contribution, and after that, when you minus your fixed cost, for example, I've given it as rent. Rent is a fixed cost. All costs which generally do not change with the level of activity, we call them fixed costs. Best example is rent. So if you look at rent is 18. So from contribution, when you minus fixed cost, you get net profit, which is 2,000. Similarly, if you look at department B, the sales being 40,000, the relevant variable cost for department B is 20. You subtract, you get contribution, share of fixed costs for department B 15, and you end up making a profit of 5,000. Now you got to be very careful when we come to department C. Sales 30,000, relevant variable cost 10. You subtract, you get contribution. See how much is the contribution? 20,000. That is sales minus variable cost. The specific term contribution is used for that. From your total revenue, from your total sales, when you minus all your variable costs, you arrive at contribution. See the share of fixed cost for department C, 23,000. So from 20, if you minus 23, obviously you get minus. That's why I've given it red. And this is basically a loss. So the decision is, should we continue operating department C? Because it's been 10 years, we are looking at that the same results every year these three departments are giving to the company. A is making a profit of $2,000, B is making a profit of $5,000, and C has been making a continuous loss of $3,000 every year. So what should we do? Generally, on the face of it, if you look at, even in classrooms, when I ask students, what should we do? Majority of them tell me, close this department, because it's been 10 years and it is going in consistent loss. Every year there is a loss of 3,000. So it has been 10 years. So apparently it looks like we need to close department C. Most of the people, I ask them what to do with these three departments, which should continue to operate, which should close down. So most of them, they said, let's close C because it's making a consistent loss for last 10 years. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do some calculations, going to show you what happens if we close department C. So let's look at it. So guys, if department C is closed, so if you look at this, if department C is closed, I'm talking about this one. If this department is closed, what will happen? Department A continues to operate, sales being same 50,000, variable cost 30. Actually, I copy pasted this here. Department B continues to operate, so results as before, 40, 20, 15, 5, 40, 20, 15, 5. But department C, since it's closed down, so it will not have any sales, any variable cost, and no contribution. And the assumption is that this fixed cost, 18, 15, and 23, which is total 56, is for the entire company. Okay, it's for the whole business. So if you close one department, that doesn't matter. Rent is still to be paid. So there is no sales for department C, there is no variable cost, there is no contribution, but the rent remains. So what is happening? So if you look at before closing department C, when department C was operational, what was the total profit for the entire company? The company was making a total profit of 4,000. How? If you look at the sales of all three departments, 50, 40 and 30, 120, the variable cost total 60, contribution, overall contribution for all the three departments 60,000, fixed cost even for all three departments added up to 56. So overall the company's contribution was 60, fixed cost was 56, and the company was making an overall profit of 4,000. So if we get into the details, department A was making a profit of 2,000, department B was making a profit of 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, 7 minus 3 because C was going in a loss, so overall profit was 4. But now when you look at, if we close department C because it was making a loss, see what's happening. We have sales for only A and B, not C, so sales is 90,000. We have variable cost for both, which is 50,000. No C. If there is no sales, there is no variable cost for C. Contribution only from A and B, which is 40,000. But if you look at fixed cost remained 18, 15 and 23 as before, 56. So if you look at this, the total contribution is 40,000, whereas the fixed cost is 56. Your fixed cost is more than your contribution. As a result, the company is making an overall loss of 16,000. So ladies and gentlemen, point to consider. When department C was operational, the company was making an overall profit of 4,000. When we close department C, the company is going into an overall loss of 16. So what do you recommend? Was it advisable to close department C? Was it a wise decision to shut down department C? The answer is no. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to tell you what is the decision criteria whether to operate or shut down. Should we continue a department to operate or should we shut it down or close? The decision criteria. We have to look at this contribution. As long as a department gives positive contribution, you can take the English meaning also, to contribute. As long as a department has a positive contribution, we do not shut it down, we do not close, because closing would be catastrophic. It would be a big mistake for you. So have a look at this. Department A sales was 50,000. Its variable cost was how much? 30. So department A sales was very much covering its variable cost. Variable cost was just 30 and the sales was 50. So you were getting something extra. That is known as contribution. And if I tell you the full meaning of contribution, it is contribution towards covering fixed cost. So how much department A sales is contributing towards covering its fixed cost? It's contributing 20,000 towards covering its fixed cost of just 18. So it was going in a profit. Look at department B, sales being 40,000. How much is the variable cost? Just 20. How much it is contributing? Contributing towards recovery of fixed cost, towards covering fixed cost. So its contribution is 20,000, fixed cost is 15. Still we have some surplus, a positive amount, profit. But if you look at department C, sales is how much? 30,000. What's the variable cost? 10,000. How much it is contributing towards fixed cost, towards the rent? 20,000. How much is the rent? 23. Now here you need to be very careful. It is contributing 20,000 towards rent, but the rent is 23. That's why you are going in a loss. But if you close it down, the rent remains, but there will be no contribution. If you see, there is no contribution, but the rent remains. In other words, in layman's word, if you close department C, the entire 23,000 you have to pay from your pocket. But if it continues to operate, out of 23, at least 20,000 this department is generating from its sales towards the rent. So if you look at this, what is happening? When we closed department C, it was going in a loss of 23 rather than 3. Why? Because this contribution is no more there. And look at the overall situation. The company is going into a loss of 16. Earlier the company was making a profit of 4. See, from profit of 4 to a loss of 16, the overall impact is 20,000, which is this contribution, ladies and gentlemen. So the decision criteria to note whether to operate or shut down, as long as a department is giving some contribution. In other words, as long as the sales is greater than variable cost, we are not going to close down, come what may. So have a look at this. I look at contribution. Is sales more than variable cost? Yes, do not close. Sales more than variable cost? Yes, do not close. Sales more than variable cost? Yes, do not close. So if you don't close, company is still making a profit of 4. If we do, company goes into a loss of 16. That's an overall impact of 20,000, which is exactly this 20,000 contribution. Guys, I hope you have understood this concept. Point number 2. There are some other aspects to operate or shut down decisions. I would say the qualitative aspects. These were the quantitative, very much relating to numbers, profits and losses. Now we are looking at the other aspects which a company should keep in mind before deciding whether to operate or shut down. So let's discuss those factors. So if you talk about the non-financial aspects of operate or shut down decisions, the very first I've jotted down here is, will fixed cost reduce or can it be eliminated? Most of the time, the fixed cost remains. But there is a possibility if we are shutting down a department, the fixed cost may reduce to a certain extent. So that is to be found. For example, if you're talking about if we close department C, maybe this fixed cost instead of 23 remains only 10. So we have to look at what impact it will have on the overall profitability. Otherwise, let me tell you, even if fixed cost is reducing, still it is not wise to close it down. Because as long as there is a contribution, we are not closing down. The other aspect to look at is, okay, if we are closing down this department, can we rent it out for somebody? Can we sublet? So that some contribution should come in. Next, what you have to look at is fixed cost. In this example, I told you, even if you close down, the rent will be there. The fixed cost will be there. Why? Because sometimes you are in contractual obligations. Like you have, taken premises on rent. The contract is for 2 years. Before that, you cannot, just close it. So the rent will continue to be there. In most of the Gulf countries, it is like if you want to terminate a rental contract, you got to give 3 months notice. So in those 3 months, the rent is there. Sometimes it is 6 months time. So keep in mind there are certain fixed costs which may be unavoidable in the short term, but avoidable in the long run. So you have to look at the timing of the decision when you are going to close down, now or later. Later, sometime it's good when you are able to eliminate or at least avoid some fixed costs and get some alternative income coming in. The next part is impact on department A and B. Now let's assume this was a departmental store. A was selling men's clothing, B for ladies, and C for kids. So you see, when a family comes to shop, you know, the father is buying things, the mother and the children are also forcing them to buy things they don't want to buy for them, whatever. So bottom line, if you close down this, maybe families may not consider coming here because they can only get for the mother and father, not for the kids. So goods are not available for the kids. They will rather go to a departmental store where they can buy clothes for the whole family, whether it be the mother, father, or the kids. So sometimes you have to keep in mind, if we close down one department, will it affect the sales of other department or not? Next, about the morale and motivation of workers. Look, you're closing down one department. Let's say even if you find it feasible. What about workers working in department A and B? They may start feeling threatened. They may anticipate, okay, if they're closing this department, our turn can also come. What if we are laid off? So there is a strong possibility the motivation and morale of workers who are already working in the department which are operating may go down. They may start finding jobs here and there. So even if you are closing down, you got to make sure that you communicate, make them feel comfortable that they won't be fired, at least in the short term. Then reaction in the market and reputation of the company. You know, when a business closes down its department or one branch, it gives a very negative, I would say, signal in the market. So how do competitors react? They may take it as an opportunity. They may think that you, one of the strong competitors, is becoming weak. They cannot sustain business anymore. How would your customers react to that? Because if you ask me, I would prefer to go to a store, a departmental store, where everything is available, rather than something is there and something is not. So there is a possibility customers generally, this gives a very negative signal to the customer that certain company has closed certain branches or certain divisions or certain departments. So you got to keep that in mind too. Then we're talking about relation with the suppliers. Relation with the supplier here means, for example, when the three departments were operating, you were buying goods in bulk. You were placing huge orders. You were getting some discounts as well. But now that one department is closed, your orders will not be the same as before. Suppliers were happy when you were buying in bulk. Now that you are not buying in bulk, you may not be their top priority. So this also to be kept in mind. And finally, the ethical aspect. Look, earlier the word was used downsizing. Then they come to retrenchment. Redundancy means when you lay off employees, when you ask them to leave. But is it ethical to ask somebody to leave because their families are dependent on the jobs? You got to keep that in mind too. So there is an ethical aspect attached to this decision. Other than that, if you read the latest management books, they don't call it downsizing anymore. They call it right sizing. You know, a sugar-coated word. Saying downsizing, retrenchment, redundancy, we are firing people, it has a negative impact actually. So right sizing means actually we are hiring the right number of employees. It's not that we are asking people to go. Actually, we are just making the numbers correct. Ladies and gentlemen, this much for today. I hope you have understood the main criteria for close down. It's the contribution. As long as the department is giving positive contribution, as in here, we are not closing down. Closing a department with a positive contribution is suicidal attempt. So guys, thank you so very much. I hope you have understood this topic. If you have liked this video, please let me know in your comment. Also let me know if there is something I could improve, there is a topic you want me to make videos on, definitely I'll keep that in mind. If you like this video, please share it with your dear and near ones so that others can also benefit. Thank you so very much for your precious time.